Whoo! Man. Pain. Pain. That's what this last 2 days have been like. But we gotta get on with the show, right? Another episode of the Back to the Game right now. All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Back to the Game Sportscast. I'm your host, Samuel Maria. Sorry that if I'm a little dim today. It's been a rough couple of days for us Celtics fans and for NBA fans, I think, basketball fans, sports fans. We've seen several injuries really kind of derail some of these series. I'll get into that this episode. But, I just want to start off by kind of acknowledging that it's been rough go. It's been a rough go. I had a very unique experience watching this past Game 5 between the Knicks and the Celtics. And first, I gotta give credit what credit is due, particularly for Game 4. The Knicks, they brought it to the Celtics. The Celtics, once again, the game was theirs to win, and the Knicks stormed back and take it. This time, from my point of view, really took it. I felt like the Celtics gave away Game 1 and 2. This time, I think they really took it. I live in NYC. If you've been watching this or if you know me, you know. And I figured, let's make this interesting. And I decided that I would watch the game live across the street from Madison Square Garden. Don't ask me why I did that. Felt like it could go either way. Either I could be in triumphant glory amongst enemy territory, or I could go up in flames. And it was a little bit of both. The experience was a little bit of both. And I was able to sneak out before I could get completely devoured, which was the smartest move I made all night. Jumped into the subway as soon as I could. But I went there with the right mindset. I was cordial, respectful, was still rooting for my guys. And it went the way it went. So let's get into it. First, I want to address right away the Tatum injury. The game started out great. I mean, the Celtics had the lead early. Tatum was on fire. I mean, he was pulling up like Steph. I mean, it looked like, to me, in my opinion, one of his top 3 games of his career. And it just so happened to feel eventually like some sort of Shakespearean tragedy. Like Macbeth or Hamlet, where it just unfolded just at the peak of his power. Literally, almost everything that had become Jason Tatum as far as his career boiled down to this one game. And it ended in such tragic fashion. And I don't know. Even for like the Knicks fans, it sucked a little bit of the air out of what was mounting to be a big Knicks win. Now, don't get me wrong, they're still wilding out. They're going crazy. But you could feel like, oh, damn. So, and when he went down, we all knew. I knew, the Knicks fans around me knew. Everyone understood the moment. So shout out to Knicks fans. They kept it classy. They clapped him on the way out. The people that I were around, they lamented seeing him go down. Everyone kind of knew when it was a non-contact injury, you didn't see like a knee bend. We knew that Achilles. So that's what it turned out to be. And ever since then, I think I needed to personally take a moment. That's why I didn't jump to create an episode and react right away. I think true fans understand sometimes this sports media news cycle, it just moves too fast. And now all you hear is people talking about, well, how will the Celtics rebuild and all this other stuff, which is great and dandy, but there's still a series at hand. And the guy just had surgery yesterday, and now you're planning out his next 2 years. So much can happen in 10 months. So much will between 10 and 16 months. So I decided I wanted to just kind of let it sink in, reflect on it, feel the pain of losing your franchise's greatest player in 10 years, 15 years, since Paul Pierce at least, and KG. And I wanted kind of to let that sink in, kind of reflect, because the truth is Jason Tatum has been a guy who has gotten a lot of hate for as great as he's been. He's gotten a lot of hate, and mainly it's because he plays for the Celtics, and the Celtics are the most hated franchise because they've won the most. And it's Boston. We all know. We all get it. But a moment like this, when you lose someone so great, you kind of get to reflect on what he's been. And I think that's what the conversation in the media should be more about recently. And the truth is, particularly about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to an extent too, is that he's been nothing but an Iron Man. I mean, since his rookie year, he's been deep in the playoffs. I mean, Eastern Conference every year. So you're talking 80, 90, 100 games plus year in, year out, and improving. I mean, I thought he regressed a little this year because he became 2-3-point reliant, but mostly just getting better and better and better, playing 30 to 40 minutes a night for 7 years in a row, playing deep into the playoffs. And then this past year, playing into the Olympics. And I had this thought, man. I did have this thought earlier in the series, like game 1, game 2, they were talking about Jaylen and Jason's durability. And I thought, man, these guys, they've been going at it hard since college and competing at the highest of levels for year in, year out. One of them is kind of due for an injury just by the numbers game. And I had a thought, and I didn't even speak it because I didn't want to jinx it, but it just felt like something was coming with this team, and it came in the worst way possible. But I think hopefully what this does, it helps Celtics fans and the major stream media kind of appreciate what Tatum actually is. Just by the numbers, he's one of already the greatest Celtics of all time. The narrative that he's not clutch is BS. I think he has poor shot selection sometimes, but he is clutch, has had big moments in big games for the Celtics. I think he's just a bit more of a Tim Duncan than he is a Kobe or an MJ. And Tim Duncan is one of the greatest champions in NBA history. So he's a little more reserved, a little more quiet, a perimeter Tim Duncan. And I think he gets a lot of hate because, to a degree, it could be said that the Celtics and this iteration of the Celtics have underachieved a bit. Only one title after 5 or 6 conference championships. But the thing was that they were in these conference championships in the early part of Jaylen and Jason's career. So they had some growing pains. Had they started to run these Eastern Conference championships off later, entering their prime, I think you would see more championships, but this is how the cards kind of unfolded. But the biggest thing for me pertaining to what's happening right now on the court is this is why it becomes so important, I think, as a team, as a franchise, that you always take care of business and you don't play with your food. Jason going down sucks for the Celtics. It really, really sucks. It really just blows. But the truth of the matter is, this team won 61 games this year. And from every talking head you would listen to, you would think Jason is just a piece of the puzzle. Every one of them said Jason was the beneficiary of this, one of the deepest rosters in the NBA. And it's true that you don't win 61 games with just one guy. So it's interesting to see now all of the talking heads completely counting out the Celtics now that they're down 3-1 without Jason. When the truth is, this team should still be able to compete in this series. And the worst part about all of this is that, yes, the injury is tragic, But what makes it more tragic is you're down 3-1, and so it's almost statistically impossible that you'll come back in this series. Had you not played with your food in the first 2 games and maybe had actually won one of those games, let alone both, this would either be a 3-1 your way or a 2-2 series right now, with still a lot on the table and a lot of basketball to be played. This being only game 5 tonight. So for me, I think it's not only the tragedy of Jason going down, but it's the tragedy of the Celtics not having enough urgency in the first 2 games to open the door for something like this happening, and now the chances of them overcoming them are close to insurmountable. Now, I think there is a small silver lining in this. It only pertains to this series, and I'll address that in a second. But first, I want to continue on this point because the biggest reason I think the Celtics are down 3-0 has been Mazzulla and his staff. It's been disappointing to see them take such a step back as a coaching staff in this situation. I think that there have been opportunities for Mazzulla to really put his stamp on this series, and he just hasn't been able to do it. He seems robotic at times in his rigidness. And while I don't think it would have been as easy to switch up for the Celtics as far as their style of play goes, because those are habit things. You've been playing one way all year. It's going to be hard to adjust that in the middle of a playoffs, where the playoffs require a certain level of grit and toughness and execution in the fourth quarter. But I do think that Mazzulla has failed to use his roster in the way that he did in the season. He spent a lot of time developing the bench from guys like Cornette and the other backup center. His name escapes me right now, but young black man, African man, I think. I forget his name, but he's great. He's a great energy guy who I think could match Mitchell, as far as energy and strength. We haven't seen him at all. So it's been this stubbornness on the part of Mazzulla to play the rest of the roster, which was the reason why throughout the season they would blow the Knicks out, because they went 9-10 deep. And I know in the playoffs you only want to trust 6 guys, but that's if you don't have a roster like the Celtics do. The Celtics do have that. And so it's been disappointing to see that Mazzulla has waited this long to make use of his entire roster. And then it's disappointing to see this style really get bitten in the ass after, winning 61 games. So that's been a big disappointment, the coaching in this series for the Celtics. But the small silver lining that I see in this entire situation is, well, now the expectations have lowered it a little bit. Now it's not championship or bust for the Celtics. Now everyone understands how important Jason actually is as a star player. Put some respect on his name. The Celtics do not win a championship without him. It's obvious to everyone now, although they try to make it seem like he was just some sort of small piece to a bigger puzzle. Unbelievably dumb, in my opinion. But the biggest thing and silver lining, I think, now it becomes about this series and what you come out. And so if I'm Mazzulla and I'm the coaching staff, I am playing into the idea that, hey, this might be the last time all of you are in this locker room together. Most likely, the circumstances point that there are some changes coming. How do you guys want to go out? Derek White, how do you want to go out? Jaylen Brown, how do you want to go out? Horford, how do you want to go out? Porzingis, how do you want to go out? Even guys on the cusp of another new contract, maybe with a different team. Pritchard and Cornette. Hauser, if you're going to be able to come back from that injury. How do you guys want to go out? You guys didn't win 61 games with one player. And the truth is, if you are watching Game 4, early on, it looked like the Celtics, they were coming out firing. Not only was JT on fire, but the rest of the team was on fire. And much of what Tatum was getting was within the offense of the team, which is what gave him the lead throughout the first half and into the second. Now, the second half, the Knicks' offense exploded. The Celtics team defense disappeared, which was disappointing because they had been playing so well up until that point in the series. But I guess the defense was due due to kind of collapse a little bit. But at the same time, in the second half of that game, while JT kept playing well, they became all too JT reliant, and it got White, Horford, Brown, and everybody else out of rhythm. And so the one silver lining in this series is you still have a very talented roster, and now the Knicks are going to have to adjust on the fly to playing everyone else in a different role without JT, which could steal you a game tonight or two. And who knows what happens in 7. But I think that there's still a chance that the Celtics could win and push this to 7 just based on the mentality that this team takes on. And if they do manage to come back from this series and pull it off, long shot. But if they do manage to do it, it'll be like a championship year. They would have, based on the injury to Tatum, that would have, for Boston fans, that would have been enough. We would have been proud of this team all year, and we would be getting behind Jason Tatum, supporting him, and making sure that, we let this team know we got their backs. But it depends on how you go out in this series. So one game at a time, really all you can do when you're down 3-1, people are like, you're not going to beat them 3 times in a row. Maybe not. Most likely not. But all you can do is take it a game at a time. So win game 5, very winnable game. You still have a deep team. And I say utilize the entire roster this time and stick to that movement, team ball style of play. JB, you got to raise your game. Show us the $300 million contract was worth it. We believe in you. And go from there. Now, one of the main reasons why no one thinks they're going to do this is Jalen Brunson. I really enjoy watching this guy play. I was surrounded by Knicks fans watching the game, and I'm talking to a couple of guys, and I'm telling them, this guy's got Tom Brady in him. It's like his heart rate goes down when everything tightens up, everything slows down, and he's always playing at his own pace. Man, what a special player he is. And I've enjoyed everything I've seen from Jalen Brunson. Outside of the fact that we're playing him, what a great player. I'm really rooting for Jalen Brunson and his career. And that's where I think the chances of the Celtics coming back in this series really do diminish. Because the Knicks only have to win one game. Only one game. And any one of the next 3 games, game 5, game 6, game 7, if it gets there, will be any one of those will be a close game. And in that close game, well, it's proven throughout the year and throughout these playoffs that Jalen Brunson is going to take his team to the finish line. So that's the one thing that scares me. Now, had the series been 2-2 or maybe even 3-1 in the Celtics' favor, had the Celtics taken care of business on the front end, even going in with this injury to Tatum, I think they could win the series. And I think, Jalen Brunson wins a game, but not necessarily 2. But they only got to win 1 more. So everything is kind of stacked against the Celtics. We'll see what they do tonight and go from there. But that's where we are now. Kind of switching things up. I'm gonna kind of address everybody, all the media, just kind of speculating on the rebuild around the Celtics and all the trades. And for me, it just ruins the moment. Even if it's a bad moment, can we just stay in the moment for a little bit? I don't want to jump to what's going to happen next year. I kind of want to enjoy what's happening now. And if this is the end for the Celtics core, I want them to have some damn pride and go out swinging. Push this to 7. And that's all I want to focus on on this episode of this style podcast. I don't want to jump ahead to, we all know the story, the luxury tax, who will they get? Who freaking cares? There's still a game to be played. All right, switching up topics a little bit, kind of moving on from that major news. The other major news coming out of the NBA is the Cooper Flagg and the Mavs situation. The Mavs obviously get the number 1 pick after having a 1.8% chance of the balls bouncing their way. And you know what? Some people say it's rigged. Some people say it's not. I don't think it is. I think it's good that there are teams who aren't tanking, who have a chance at getting the number 1 pick. Mainly because both Jason Tatum and JB came from trades that we made with the Brooklyn Nets for KG and Pierce. And they inherited not a bad situation. And I think that really played into what their careers are now. I think, you know, if I was a number 1 pick, potentially, I don't necessarily know that I would be so happy about going to a franchise that has no history, who just has accepted losing year in and year out and has no championship culture. And it's kind of cool to see a franchise like the Mavs, who they care about competing, they care about putting together good rosters, inherit the number 1 pick, and Cooper Flagg, who's an extremely competitive player with a great skill set and an amazing motor. Clearly he loves the game. If you watch him closely, the kid loves to play, the kid loves to compete. To watch him go into a situation where he can trust that his front office and his coaching staff and his teammates are there to compete and bring the best out of him, you couldn't ask for anything more for a potential next level superstar. That's why it was so good that Wemby went to San Antonio, even though they've struggled the first 2 years. That's why it's so great that Brown and Tatum wound up with the Celtics and not with the Brooklyn Nets. Who knows what their careers would have been? Would they have been first team, second team players, all-stars, $300 million players? I don't think so. I think where you land has a lot to do with that. So I'm actually a big fan of the Mavs getting the number 1 pick and really discouraging other teams from tanking. It's not about that. You should put your best product on the floor, coach your players up, and make the league as competitive as possible. And let the chips fall where they may. I think I heard someone say the NFL should adopt this. I've had that thought for a long time. But yeah, Cooper Flagg to the Mavs. I like it. The only thing better than that, if he came to the Celtics, he's a New England kid. So another thing that I want to talk about on this episode, kind of switching over, I have to get better at the segues, or kind of to bring it about, is what we're seeing in these playoffs. What started off in the first round as an unforgettable playoffs, I mean, competitive game after competitive game, has been a bit derailed. They're still competitive and fun series, but a bit derailed by the injury bug. And this is something that we've been seeing for a few years now in the NBA. These guys wear down towards the end of the season, and it's fairly new. It didn't used to be the case that you would have this many players. This year it's Mitchell, Garland, Tatum, Lillard, Steph, and Steph is 37 years old. LeBron. I don't believe that one. So it kind of becomes a competition of who's the healthiest. And I don't know. And now with this Achilles stuff, like 2 Achilles, that wasn't an injury that you heard of a lot, except for the last 10 years, 15 years. And if it happened, it was late in a guy's career like Kobe and Dominique Wilkins. But I'm just wondering what's happening, because it's the same schedule, the same number of games. The training is better. The science is better. What has happened to these athletes and how they go about their business that they just get these severe injuries more frequently, particularly at this time of year? Definitely something for the NBA to consider and to look at. Are these athletes not cross-training enough, or are they training too much over the summer and not giving their bodies a proper rest? Because they are afraid of falling behind because everybody else is working over the summer. And, it used to be that guys used to use off-season as an off-season. It's given the games a lot of pros. The guys are just that much more skilled. But it also has taken a lot away. So we'll see where that lands. But that's just been my observation. This injury stuff is kind of throwing a wrench and a bad taste in your mouth as for a playoff that has been otherwise amazing. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about today in this episode, wrap it up here. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. MJ joining the NBC as a special contributor. I mean, fire, bro. So excited for that. I mean, nothing hits harder to me than the NBA NBC theme song. I mean, and what's more synonymous with MJ than that, other than the Chicago Bulls theme song? And what I love about this is that MJ is not only the GOAT of the court, he's a GOAT of mystique. He knows exactly when to get involved marketing wise. He's quiet until it's absolutely the right opportunity. He was like that with his branding when he was playing. He wasn't always available, which in turn gave us this amazing 10-part documentary with footage that so many people never got to see, because there was an air of mystery around them. I think the Patriots did really good. That's why they're having such great post-career success. All the legends from the Patriots have the same situation going on. And now as LeBron's career winds down, it's a great time for MJ to come inject himself back in the conversation so that the younger generation can be reminded just of how great this man was and the standard that he set. Almost an impossible standard to eclipse, literally the greatest American athlete of all time. So excited for that. That's the one future piece I was willing to kind of go into. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see what happens tonight for Game 5 on the between the Celtics and the Knicks. I'm going to go ahead and say Celtics win. Who knows what will happen to MSG? We'll take it one game at a time. But if this thing goes 7, oh man, it's going to be crazy in the Garden. So this has been another episode of the Back to the Game Sportscast. I'm your host and your boy, Samuel Maria. As always, please like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Do you think I'm on point with some of my assessments of the Celtics and how they need to play the rest of the series? Did they dig themselves too deep of a hole? Or has this just been all the Knicks and they've just taken it and they've been the better team the whole time? I disagree there, but let me know what you think. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace and love.